We'll now move to our next session, which is by Mr. Mehmet. We have Mr. Mehmet here. This is working.
Hello. Thanks for staying. I hope I can bring, is it okay? I hope I can bring some joy back to this room. Thanks for joining. Let me briefly introduce who I am, and then let me jump in to my speech. This is Mehmet. I'm working as an Agile consultant for the last about 20 years, and I am co-founder of an leading Agile consultancy company, ACM. Also, I'm the co-founder of an Agile community in Turkey, Agile Turkey. I am a PST, Scrum.org trainer for the last 15 years, since 2010. And also, I am a 3 times author on Agile and Scrum. I have been in many large-scale Agile transformations so far globally. But today, I will not talk about AI, for sure, okay? And I will not talk about Agile or Scrum. I have something else for you. I hope you will enjoy. I want to introduce you a small but a powerful company which is running autonomously, totally self-managed, and very successful. So I think Latro, the name of the company is Latro, is a great example of agility living without limitations of bureaucracy and power hierarchy. So I think there are some key takeaways that we can get from how they succeed by owning the accountability and, in parallel, increasing a radically transparent environment inside their organizations. Is there a clicker, or should I do it like that? And thanks to all the supporters of the organization and the community members who make this event happening. Latro, as I said, is a flat organization. So there are no managers in Latro. There are no team leads. There are no agile coaches, no scrum masters, no product owners. Just one level, and it's only flat. Latro has about 40 people in it, and that 40 people are acting like the boss of the organization and collectively managing the whole company together. What do I mean by being boss of the organization? Let me tell you. There's only one role in Latro, which is named as Explorer. Think Latro as a startup network organization, which is full of with entrepreneurs. And all these entrepreneurs are named as Explorers. There's a simple definition, job definition of the Explorers. Explorers are doing whatever it is needed to run the company. Okay? Like an entrepreneur, like a startup owner, like the founder of a startup, right? That's why I'm saying that Latro is run by 40 bosses inside the organization collectively. Together with that, you can think Latro as a team organization which has small cross-functional multiple teams inside the network. Each teams are vary in size 5 to 8 people, so they are really small, but they're cross-functional. So they are established around the specific customer need, and they are running like a startup, which means that they are setting their strategy, they are setting their targets, they are putting the execution, and they are owning profit and loss by themselves. So they are there to generate revenue and own the accountability to make their startups grow. Okay? In Latro, there's a radical transparency. Everything is transparent inside the organization, like revenue, profits, expenses, salaries, everything that you can imagine of. So at any time, anyone is aware of what's going on inside the company. Actually, this triggers 2 things inside the company. One, accountability, and the other one is the self-correction. So together with that, every explorer inside the Latro ecosystem get trained around basic understanding of the finance and how to run a company. So with that high level of radical transparency and getting trained on how to understand this data, it triggers accountability and the self-correction mechanism inside the organization. As I said, we get rid of having approval process for expenditures. Let me give you an example about that. For example, when we get rid of the approval process, I can tell you that in total, the travel and accommodation costs diminished by about 10%. Why that happened? Most probably, the clarity and visibility around the costs created some learnings inside the organization. So people started to learn how to really optimize their costs. Plus, maybe there was some sweet kind of a peer pressure inside the system. So this is how the self-correction mechanism is working inside the Latro. As I mentioned, salaries are also transparent inside the system. And beyond that, actually, explorers are the ones that are setting their salaries. So there's no external party like an HR or a management authority who defines the salaries for the system. It's all done by its own people. I can tell you that for the last 3 years, Latro is working like that, and it is pretty better than the old traditional way of setting the salaries. It's more smoother, I can tell you. I will tell you the details about how they are setting the salaries later on, but it is living, alive, and working for the last 3 years. Together with that, there are no set targets inside the system. A team can set their own targets, but there is no official process to go and set a target. So, but together with that, they all know that if they can grow the ecosystem, so if the company earns more, make more profit, they will be earning more because there's a profit-sharing model inside the ecosystem. And it triggers growth mindset inside the ecosystem. Together with that, since the teams are very small and since we have radical transparency inside the organization, we didn't see any need to come up with a performance management process. I think the performance is very visible inside the organization. And together with that, teams have the accountability for hiring and firing. So it self-corrects on itself. How does that sound for you so far? Utopic? Yeah. It seems maybe utopic. Yeah, I know, I can understand that, but it is not romantic at all. Let me share you some numbers about the Latro's business. So, when we first started in 2021, their revenue was about 7 million USD. They were all, profiting, but 0% of their revenue were coming from export, and they had 0 Latro branded product inside the market. Just after about 2 years, we started to work like autonomous way. They doubled their revenue, doubled their profit. Now they are running more than 10 products actively and successfully in their own markets. And they have 2 spin-off startups inside, which get funded from external funders. So I think this shows a great example of agility that is living without bureaucracy and hierarchy. Let me show you how did it happen. Sorry. It all initiated by the founder of Latro, actually. So the founder of Latro, Haluk, is a very smart, very ambitious entrepreneur. And in 2020, he saw that his company has a huge potential for growth. But he didn't want to just scale the company in a traditional way by having some divisions, functional departments, and also power-structured layers of managers. He wanted to give some freedom to his people, together with growing the accountability inside the ecosystem, so that they can collectively grow the company. That's how we started in 2021. In March, I and my colleagues started to work with Latro people. For the first month, what we did, we interviewed with everyone inside the organization. So we tried to understand their needs, what they are looking for, what are their aspirations. And then we also introduced some ideas about agility and also self-management practices. Then, at the end of the month one, we ask the ecosystem whether are they okay to move in a self-managed, autonomous way of working. And we got 100% consent, so okay to try this new way of working inside their ecosystem. I think this is very important. Whenever you are starting for a radical transformation like this one, you need to start with two success factors, which is the first one, you need to get, or you need to be sure, 100% sure that the manager, the management, top management, or the owner of the company is really understanding what this transformation means. And we were lucky that Haluk has personal values very in line with what we are trying to achieve. That's the first thing as a success factor. And the second thing is that you need to go and talk to people and get their consent in order to start such big transformation. Because at the end, they will be free, but with a huge accountability at the end. So they need to understand that, and they need to be willingness to at least try that, right? So we get 100% of consent from everyone inside the organization. Then the first thing we did is we defined what you see on the screen, purpose, values, and the principles for the organization. Think this as a lightweight framework so that the teams can make decisions. So whenever they are making a decision, they are checking whether there's a real need in the customers. Are they really solving a problem? Plus, they are checking that whether that solution is aligned with what Latro aspires to do. Okay? It took about 3 months that we come up with what you see on the screen. So we collectively built this. So everyone got involved in the discussions to come up with defining the purpose, values, and principles of Latro. And we all know that this will evolve. It already started to evolve after the 3 years, actually, inside the company. But we all know that maybe we will keep the purpose, but the values most probably will evolve on the way. And they have the right to do, of course, whenever they like. Okay? Together with this, in parallel, we structured and established 2 pilot cross-functional teams, startups inside the organization. So we started with implementing these teams in order to make people understand what it is really means that running in an agile way, what it really means about being autonomous in their day-to-day life. Okay? One of the teams that we established first was for the textile industry. And it is where Latro was really dominant in business. About 70% of their revenue were coming from textiles. Second thing that we established the team around was for the agriculture industry. And this is where they were the weakest, actually. Only 2 or 3% of the revenue were coming from that industry. So we wanted to pick 2 different environments in order to show them that how that autonomy works in different conditions. I need to share you some figures from today, actually. Today, the revenue shares dramatically changed. Currently, the total revenue is only 35, maybe 40% is coming from textile. It was before 70%. And now, agriculture industry is creating 30% of the overall revenue. We are lucky that we have it. We are lucky that they evolved like that. They put their target like that, actually. This is the direction set by Latro's own people. Because, as you may all know, Turkey has a big economical challenge for the last about 2 years. And do you know what? The most affected industry is textile. So I cannot imagine what would happen to Latro if they couldn't make that shift. So I think it's a very good example how Agile is really alive within the ecosystem. After we helped them to work in that way for about 5 months, then the whole ecosystem come up with a consent to scale this way of working inside the organization. Okay? So they see and understand how it is working for that 2 specific areas. Then they come up with, okay, let's scale it to the whole organization. That's how we come up with establishing 5 startups inside the ecosystem. Now, everyone in Latro is part of a startup, a team, and they are calling it like hubs. And you can only be part of a single hub. So they are dedicated for a specific customer need. Hubs are established around textile, agriculture, cosmetics. It is something new for them too. Household. And there is one hub which is dealing with the logistics and the finance. But remember, all of them are generating revenue. It's a must. If you are not generating the revenue, you are not part of the ecosystem. You should generating revenue, okay? And they're accountable to run their company by setting their own strategy, executing their decisions, and managing their profit and loss by themselves. How they are working? We come up with a very simple business rhythm, actually, to enable them work all together in the ecosystem, both independently and both collaborating all together. So this is their lightweight business rhythm. Let me start from discovery. Every quarter, the members of an hub comes together and discuss about the problems and the opportunities they see in their markets. And they come up with some hypothetical ideas to go and experiment inside their market. So on average, they create about 4 to 6 hypothetical solutions that they think can create value into their markets. This is how actually they come up with more than 10 alive products working and performing well into the market. But it is not just about creating products. They come up with business ideas like how we can improve our customer satisfaction, how we can come up with a new financial paying model so that we can differentiate ourselves inside the competition. So these kind of questions they keep asking to each others and come up with some hypotheses to go and implement to see whether they are really creating the value. And you know what? Most of them are failing, of course. But the idea in here is to create new possibilities. That's the purpose of the Latro. So this mechanism is trying to trigger that. After that, every week, every hub is running a progress meeting. It's a 30 minutes meeting, maybe sometimes less. And they're doing 2 things in that meeting as a hub. First, they're checking their experiments, how they're progressing, and trying to see whether they are failing, are there any thoughts that they are learning out of the experiments, and evolve their actions on top of that. Second thing, they are checking whether how their business as usual is going, actually. So we have a dashboard of metrics for all of the hubs, which has about 24, 25 metrics data that they can follow, but don't take them as KPIs or metrics. They're just data showing how the business is doing, actually. So some data about their revenue, some data about their costs, some data about the profit, stock levels, customer satisfaction, complaints from coming from customers. So these kind of things they are checking. If everything seems usual, done. If there is some unusual thing, they dig deeper about that data and try to understand what to fix in that weekly meeting. So 2 things. Fix the business as usual and invest to grow the business by the experiments that they defined in their quarterly discovery meetings. One thing we have in between is improve. It's basically a retrospective event, actually. But to be honest, it is not really happening. So we defined altogether is the ecosystem that let's run a process innovation mindset and put it like an event inside our business rhythm and call it a monthly improve event. But then we ended up that teams like to have it 4 to 5 times per year. So now it's optional. This is how they come up with this decision. They are designing their own system, right? Even I can tell you that they worked with this business rhythm for about 2 years and then stopped doing this because they thought that it's all okay now, they learned it, and tried running their business without this rhythm for about 7 months. And then at the end, they came back and started to run this business rhythm again. So it's a whole experimental environment for them that they can decide on whatever they like to, because they own that accountability at the end. There's one more event on top of these three, actually, which is named as Share and Learn. And it is happening quarterly again. And in the Share and Learn, it's an event to make the whole ecosystem come together and collaborate together. Okay? So we gather all the teams together in a one-day event every quarter and ask them to share their experiences, their aspirations, what they're dealing with. And then also, it's a good place for the overall ecosystem to discuss about things that is impacting everyone inside the ecosystem. So like salaries, maybe. So if you want to discuss something about a salary, most probably you will be making it a topic inside the Share and Learn, and collectively all the ecosystem will go and talk about that issue and come up with a decision. So a little bit information about the salary too. I personally see that traditional performance management systems as broken. The reason for that is traditional performance management systems mostly try to find higher performing little number of people inside the organization and reward them. At first sight, it seems logical, but when you think about that for a while, I see that it welcomes average performance and it normalizes actually the medical culture inside the organizations. It can be your choice, that's okay, but this is not a choice for Latro, definitely. So Latro is unique with its character. It's a very ambitious startup, actually, built on top of the DNA of its ambitious founder, Haluk. So Latro was aspiring to be the best in his industry. They want to be Tesla or BYD in their own industry. That is what we were talking to them 4 years ago. In order to have that, they knew that they need to be able to get the best talented people from the market. And that's not enough. They need to also give some room for that best talented people so that they can self-actualize themselves. Plus, they keep learning, growing, so that the overall ecosystem continue to learn, right? In order to have that, we come up with this model, which is pay top-notch monthly base salary, plus share 10% of the profit to everyone inside the organization every quarter. Okay? When we first introduced this idea 3 years ago to the ecosystem, there were some people who got afraid about this transparency and ambitious behavior. We asked them to give us 2 quarters to just go and try this model. Because we can change everything anytime. If it doesn't work, we will fix it somehow altogether, right? Then the experiment was really good and smooth, actually, so that now we still having this model with any changes. For me, you know what, when I understand that this system is really working, it was one of the share and learns that they were talking about the salary, because there's a high inflation rate in Turkey. Some people were asking that, hey, we need to increase our salaries because of the inflation, right? And there were a few other explorers coming from different hubs challenging that topic, because they were telling that, hey, in my hub, for my market, I want to make a business investment in the next 2 to 3 months, so I don't want to risk the cash flow in such an economic situation. When I saw that's happening, I understand that this is working. Now it has been 3 years that they are working like that in a full autonomy model. I can tell you that they still try to keep top-notch paying salary model in order to attract people, and plus sharing the profit. Not every quarter they are profiting, unfortunately, but they are doing okay. And I think, although the system will for sure evolve in the future, they will keep the visibility and self-set salary mindset inside the ecosystem. They saw how easy and how it is really creating benefit for each other. So I think they will keep it, although maybe the mathematics will change in here. Okay? So I think I'm on time. Okay. So this is, I just wanted to share you Latro's unique transformation. As I told you, it is not Scrum or Agile, but I think it's something that embodies agility and without having really blockers like hierarchy and bureaucracy, at least minimum viable amount of them maybe is happening internally because of the human nature. If you are wondering more about it, please go and check. These are some details about the topics that I just shared to you. And you know what? This is a unique solution for Latro. I'm not here to tell you that go and copy-paste this to your organization. Every organization is unique and needs to get a tailored understanding of how we define we are working, right? But I think there are some good pieces that you can take and experiment in your organizations. And I encourage you to do that. At least you can start delegating more power, decentralizing the hierarchy across your teams, plus invest in increasing transparency. Low level of transparency is the main blocker for having accountability inside the organizations. That's what I see for many years, for many times. So please go and invest, at least giving your power, delegating it to the customers, to your teams, plus invest in creating some transparency. Thank you.
Thanks, Mehmet. That's very interesting. I'm just wondering, while you are presenting this, and those who are actually practicing this, are they aware of the management theory? Are they aware that everything that was put in front of us now is bits and pieces from the management theory in some aspects? So, for example, there is something in the management theory called micro-organization. There is something called autonomous teams. There is something called innovation process. And so all these bits and pieces are parts of the management theory, but they are maybe clustered in a special way that is very attractive. So thanks very much for your presentation. It was really interesting and engaging. Any comments from your side?
Thank you. For the Latros people, I'm not sure whether they are really aware of what we are doing, because on average, their people's ages 25 or 26. They are very young, new generation people working inside the Latro. But what we see is that Latro's, one of the most powerful thing is that somehow they find to attract people with an entrepreneurship DNA. That's why actually, maybe without knowing that management knowledge, they buy in their DNA and spirit. Just understand it, and since they saw how it is affecting and creating impact for them, it was really easy, smooth transition. But also, let me tell you that maybe it seems easy, and I'm saying that it is easy, but about 30% of the Latro people just resigned themselves from the system when we first transformed into this new way. Although they maybe get doubled in terms of monthly salary, they saw that entrepreneurship ambitious model is not for them. And we lost about 30% of the people on the way, which is, I think, okay, which is, I think, is expected, because Latro is trying to build something new in here, and it's not for everyone. It is unique for Latro people, and it is unique for some ambitious entrepreneur DNA people. And at the end now, they are keeping that pace as we defined all together 3 years ago.
Thanks, Rangan, for an amazing presentation. And it's an amazing idea. Like you have mentioned that they're young people, very driven, and doing all things by themselves. So given that there is a very high ambition, and you also mentioned that we have these quarterly revenue that's coming into them, when you are putting in so much efforts, creating something innovative, new every single time, so how do you handle failures? So has there been any setbacks for the teams, and how they have been able to handle that in terms of maybe revenue, or the product that they created, it failed in the market?
Yeah, I have two examples for that. One, they had a team, it was very small. I think 3 people were working on that, and they established that team for technology industry, specifically working for the military. They pushed hard for about 15 months, but then they see there's no progress inside that industry. For Latro, not for everyone. And they all together decided to close that team, actually. And that 3 people just diffused around to other teams. So they always also talk about what is going wrong inside the organization. I think they have the courage to do so. This is something that we worked on it, but now I think it's happening because they closed down one team, which they think that is just bankrupting. So they accept it and then moved together with that exception. Second thing I think is they, as I said, come up with some ideas at the end of discovery events. And maybe till now, for the last 4 years, they created more than 50 new ideas to try. And I can tell you that maybe more than 40 just failed, didn't work. But they are keeping to come up with new ideas because they see that if 1 or 2 really can work, it can take the Latro into a next level. Like 2 spin-off startups that I just mentioned. They get funded millions of dollars from external funders, VCs, and now they are doing a great job under the Latro umbrella. So since they see and experience that, I think they're keeping on innovating, although most of the ideas are still failing.
This is the last question.
Yeah.
We don't have time for more questions.
Yeah, it's a kind of follow-up question to what I think Amal asked. So one is like in terms of failure, currently you are saying that we are doing revenue sharing on a quarterly basis or a monthly basis. Yeah, profit sharing. Right now things are rosy, it's working fine, but in the future, maybe any organization following this model, if they are going downhill in terms of revenues, how will you think it will affect the people? And
No idea.
second, in terms of this model of quarterly revenue sharing or monthly profit sharing, how would investors feel safe? Because the money is getting split ultimately between the people already. You already kind of have an equity with all the people, right? Because they are getting profit. How will the investors feel
They don't
safe?
have any equity, actually. They're just getting the profit, some portion of the profit. For the first one, I don't know, actually, the answer. But if the system will face such a challenge, what I believe and trust is that they will find a way to solve it. So for the last 3 years, they faced with lots of blockers and challenges, and they somehow still running in a good way. So I trust them that they will find the answer for that question. But I also see that it is the same for an entrepreneur, right? In an entrepreneurship, you can earn lots of millions, and also the opposite is also true. So they are living like the entrepreneur's life. And I think the answer is your entrepreneur's spirit that deals with that. Second thing, since they don't have any equity, I don't know, they are not looking for external investors to invest into Latro, so it was never been a discussion till now. But I don't think that will be a problem. If you are really showing doubling your profit in terms of US dollars, I think it will be catchy enough for any investors.
Thank you, everyone. Just one.
Spirit of adventure.
Yeah.
And this is in the theory of entrepreneurship. Some entrepreneurs with the spirit of adventure.
Okay.
They get achievements.
Yep, exactly.
We have a gift for our speaker as well.
Thank you.
Very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ahmed. Thank you. There is a mistake on the cards. On our agenda, we'll be restarting at 1:30 exactly. We'll have like 53 minutes lunch break now. And if you miss taking any picture, don't worry. If you follow our social media, you'll be able to download or see these presentations. You will be getting a notification. We will share all these presentations on SlideShare. So thank you very much, and see you again at 1:30.